guys, welcome back to Conscious Conversation with me, Chrissy J. Today's topic is going to be homeschooling and what makes it the optimal form of education for a conscious world. Gandhi said, "There is no school equivalent to a decent home, and there is no teacher equivalent to a virtuous parent." But wait a second, doesn't homeschooling make people unprepared, unsocialized weirdos that don't know how to take care of themselves? Well, why would somebody so smart say something like that then? Let's find out. First, I want to start off by saying there's quite a spectrum of ways to homeschool. There's, on one end, the parents that just kind of take the same curriculum and they bring it home and just do it at home, the same thing you'd be doing at school pretty much, just instead at home. And then on the whole other side of the spectrum, there's this thing called unschooling, which is basically where there's no curriculum at all, and the kid is just kind of, in a way, teaching themselves, and you're just kind of a resource. Like, whatever they are interested in learning about at the time, you are providing resources for them to learn about that. You're not forcing them to learn about something they don't want to learn about. You're teaching them about what exactly they're interested in right now. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm going to be homeschooling, and I'm going to go somewhere in between these two, more on the unschooling side. So, for example, right now, my oldest son is about to be 4, and my twins are about to be 2. And all of them are really interested in like colors and numbers and letters and animals and all that, and learning about that kind of stuff. So I'm providing them with materials to learn about that kind of stuff. I'm not necessarily forcing them to learn what a standard preschool teaches kids, but that's what they want to learn about anyway. So virtually they're learning about it because they want to, not because I'm making them. So because this is the kind of homeschooling I plan to use and that I personally think is the best, that's what I'm going to be referring to when I say homeschooling throughout this video. So I just wanted to clear that up first. So I'm just going to get right into some things that are pretty illogical about public school that we kind of overlook. First, it's kind of weird that we consider school like such a necessary thing, and we act like there's just no way around it. You have to go to public school to be an active member of society, and really it's only been around for 150 to 200 years. Before that, schools were only for like advanced adults like yogis and priests and stuff like that to train. It's not even been a thing to put a bunch of kids into a classroom for that long. Also, it's kind of ridiculous that we stick a bunch of kids that are the same age in the same room and expect them to learn the same things by the same deadline exactly the same way. We know that everybody's different and that everybody learns different and at their own pace and in their own ways, but we still are teaching everyone the same way. So it just doesn't really make sense. Also, our kids are spending most of their days inside of classrooms, or classroom settings, usually the same classroom for younger kids, and not very long getting up and being active or outside or doing anything but sitting at a desk. And this is super unnatural. Schools are man-made, nature is not. It's natural, and so is being active. So it doesn't make very much sense that more of the day at school is spent in the classroom, a lot more, than actually outside or walking around or at lunch or PE or whatever. Most of it's spent in the desk. So our kids are basically spending more time at school than anything. Let me break this down for you. The average school day goes for about 7 hours. That means about 17 hours at home. Most kids are supposed to spend about 10 averagely sleeping. That leaves kids 7 hours of their life. Sure, when you just look at that for face value, that's splitting it right down the middle. 7 hours in school, 7 hours of social life, or whatever. But there's a lot of things that have to go into those 7 hours of home time. You have to take care of your personal hygiene, you have to eat, you have to bathe, you have to do the homework that you get sent home with every day, no matter what, pretty much. Any of your relationships, family, friends, any hobbies you have, any sports you're involved in, anything like that, all has to get taken care of in the 7 hours. And this other 7 hours is put straight to school. And another problem with this is that it kind of makes us think that we are only supposed to learn in this building at this part of the day during these 7 hours. And it programs us to not look at life as the ultimate teacher, which it truly is, and not to be looking for the life lessons that we get all day, every day. And so then we don't notice them as easy, because by default, if you're not looking for the lessons in everyday things that happen, you're probably not going to see them as easily. So that's another really big problem with public schools. Another thing is a lot of public schools are facing budget cuts, and that's not their fault, but the problem is when this happens, the things that are going first is things like cooking class, music, art, shop class. All the things that feed our creative mind are going out the window, and all the things that feed our logical mind are staying. And we don't really even learn about some things that maybe we should, like how to cook our own food, or grow our own food is what I meant, sorry. Or how to change a tire, or sacred geometry. Any of these things that we probably should be learning about, we're not. And then we are learning about things that we end up not using in our everyday lives. Once we get out of school, it becomes useless. There's lots of things we learn that we do need to know, but there's also lots of things we learn that we don't need to know. So that's another big problem. Another problem is that with public school, kids are just spending most of their time around a group of people that are the same age as them, that live in the same place as them, that they're forced to be around. And so it's not natural interactions happening every day. There's this big misconception with homeschooling, how kids are socially awkward and just are weirdos. They don't know how to interact with other people, but this is the farthest from the truth. Public school causes that more than homeschooling, because kids that are homeschooled are going out to things like community events and to the public library and over to a parent's friends who might know about something that they want to learn about, and out to coffee shops and the grocery store in the middle of the day when there's people there and things like that. So homeschool kids are actually having interactions that are natural and by happenstance, not with the same group of people over and over and over that they're forced to be around, except for during recess or lunch or something like that. And so that's another problem that is happening by forcing these kids to go to public school. Another problem with public schools is that it can cause kids to feel bad about themselves if they don't fit in with the people in their class. And if you move around too much or act a certain way that isn't docile, pretty much, you can get labeled with things like ADHD and ADD and get thrown on a bunch of medications that just make you feel like shit. Sorry for the language. So that's another big problem. Also, I don't know about you guys, but I have vivid memories of classmates who seemed smart enough to me. They had life smarts and everything, even if they were too lazy or uncaring or shy or whatever to show that they knew what was going on. They knew what was going on. But because they didn't learn in the same way as me, they ended up in special ed. And they were not special ed. They just didn't learn the same way. So that's another big problem that's happening, is people are just if you don't learn just how they want you to, you're getting thrown into special ed. Now that I've said all these awful things about public school, I just want to say, I'm not saying it's all bad. It does teach us a lot of things that are important. It's just that we're learning a lot that we don't need to also. For the most part, it's an indoctrinating system that's just to teach us how to be another piece in the 9-to-5 system that is what we use in our developed countries around the world. Math and science and history and all of that are important, there's no doubt about that, but we're being taught way more about these core subjects than we need to know, instead of learning as much as we need to know in relation to our specific interests. The dread that we associate with specific subjects, like people who hate math and stuff like that, is not because we suck at math or we hate math, it's because we've been forced to learn about these things instead of being given the opportunity, like homeschool kids are, to just learn about exactly what you need to know about. And this helps line up the best with homeschool kids' dreams and aspirations and all of that, so that they can learn exactly what they need to know about exactly the things that they care about. They don't have negative feelings towards learning because they've never been forced to learn about things that are virtually useless. So this doesn't mean totally dismissing subjects that we need to know, like colors and letters and shapes and numbers and communication skills and and basic math and all of that. This just means that when a kid that was interested in reading last week doesn't want to read this week, we don't force them to keep reading. Instead, we let them learn about what they want to and loop back to reading at a later time. And it doesn't matter if you have to loop back to it 8 times before they get it. The point is they're learning about what they want to and not being forced. When you take a look at children, it's really easy to see that they're naturally curious and they're naturally inquisitive. And it's very important to teach them that learning should be about what you want to learn about and what is going to be beneficial to you specifically while they're kids, because it's going to set the stage for who they are as adults and how they feel about learning as adults, and if they dread it or love it as adults. And it's just going to really give our kids the very best chance to be the very best them, and that's what every parent wants, right? I mean, that's what I want. So with all that being said, I just want to say I'm not trying to condemn anybody through this video. I understand that there is all kinds of situations out there, and there's people, parents, kids, who maybe want to do this and can't, or are totally uninterested in it, and I'm not saying this is for everybody. It's just for me. This is the best path for me. I know this is what's right for me and my kids, and I've been getting a lot of heck for choosing to do this, and I think people just really don't understand what the truth to it is. So I really wanted to make this not only to educate you guys about it, but to also be able to say, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, so stop telling me I'm wrong. Because for us, I am right. I'm doing what's right for us. After ourselves, our kids are the most important people to nurture and help grow and encourage to be awakened from the very beginning of their life, instead of being like myself and others I know who are 20 years old just finally learning about the things that I wish I would have been taught about the whole time. We can save our kids from having to rewire decades of bad habits and bad behaviors that we were wired with if we teach them in the right way from the beginning and let them learn about what they want to learn about. So I hope this video has helped you see the truth about homeschooling and public schooling, and I hope that I don't make anybody too mad. For more content, make sure to like, subscribe, and Facebook, Tumblr, all those platforms that are down below in the link. And of course, if you know anybody who might want to see this, share it. And thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys so much. And we'll be back to regular with videos starting now. So stay tuned for a video on Sunday. And until then, stay beautiful, guys.